Okay, then. So I'm sticking my neck out a little bit here, and on top of that, allowing the whole world to see my extremely scruffy environment, where I get all my research work done. There is King Cerasani in all his glory, about to get his ass kicked repeatedly at the Venetian. This is a thing where he says, he took a 100k marker at the Venetian. Here's what happened. It wasn't nice. And what I do in situations like this is I just keep a pencil log of everything that happens, obviously in real time. I mark down his bets, or whoever it is that I'm tracking. Mark those bets down as accurately as I can. A lot of the time, John doesn't announce his bets, but he's got a camera guy and presumably an editor as well, who's pretty good about sort of the angles that he uses. So most of the time, it's pretty easy to see what he's betting. And I have a particular way of doing this. D indicates dealer, N indicates a lost double down, Y is a successful double down, B is blackjack, P is a player win, and every so often you'll see an extra notation there. For instance, 17 over 18. It's when basically I'm interested when the dealer beats the player by just 1 point. And I have to say here that nothing that happens in any of these negative expectation games, no individual result, is in any way a predictor of what's going to happen next. The one area where John has come up with something that I find interesting, but probably likely to be proven irrelevant in the long run, but in defence of what he's doing, it's going well for him. What he does is he surrenders a lot, more than anybody else that I've ever watched. But he takes the half of the bet that he's left with and he adds it to the next bet. So, for instance, if he's on a little 1500 run, like here, he does an S. See, there's one down there. And so the next bet is the 1500 plus the half that he saved by surrendering rather than losing. Of course, a lot of the time when he surrenders, he gives up, when he's surrendering with a 16 against a 10, for instance, he surrenders and then the next card dealt turns out to be a 4 or a 5. It would have given him a win. But that's just part of the whole game. But it's interesting to track somebody like this because even though he's crowned himself the best blackjack player of all time, he's fooling himself. He is completely deluded. I mean, he really is simplistic in his approach. He bets flat most of the time. And so essentially, he only wins, he only makes a profit at the end of a session if he wins more bets than he loses. And I'm sorry, John, but that just is not going to help you long term. And he is an interesting guy. I certainly have absolutely no problem with whatever he wants to claim for himself. If he wants to say that he's king of the world, that's fine by me. I mean, laugh up my sleeve, but certainly won't deny him the right to pretend that he's a lot better than he actually is. But anyway, I'm doing this in advance. I'm taking this little video in advance of actually putting all these bets into the pattern betting algorithm. And I am, as I say, sticking my neck out as well because I'm saying to you, without even looking at the end result when this log is transcribed into Excel, into the special worksheet that I've set aside for King Cerasani. In advance of that, I'm happy to say I know that pattern betting will show a win against John's loss. I hope I'm not wrong about this. And here, I'm going to put this damn thing on the channel, win or lose. I think that's the right thing to do. Anyway, that's the end of my little prelim thing here. I won't apologise for my scruffy desk because it's my safe space, and I love that big monitor because that gives me a really good view of folks like John Cerasani when they basically tank. I don't want the guy to lose. But it's much more helpful to me when he does, because then I'm able to demonstrate more dramatically that if only he'd stuck with a sensible betting strategy instead of this silly flat betting thing that he does most of the time, he'd have made some money. But it's his money; he can do what he wants. And of course, like all the other people on YouTube, Cerasani doesn't actually face any long-term jeopardy because he's going to get his money back from Moogle, the cash cow, Google. So he's bulletproof. He could make money at these games, but if he did, the casinos would show him the door. So that's how it is. And he claims that he's a winner everywhere he's ever played. He's a lifetime winner everywhere he's ever played. I don't believe him, but I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just saying I need proof, please. Anyway, onward. Ah! Well, I got to tell you, as I lean back in my squeaky chair and I'm looking at this lot, God, this was hard work. It's tricky with John Cerasani because he does talk a lot. He doesn't talk nearly as much when he's losing as he does when he's winning, but boy, he does like the sound of his own voice. I can't criticize him for that because I've been accused of exactly the same thing. I do talk a lot. I always figure that I'm doing it because I need to explain exactly what pattern betting is about. But anyway, whatever. We are both talkers, no doubt about that. Now, the story for pattern betting was that I was uncomfortable through a lot of the session, the Cerasani session this time. Number one at the Venetian, and I think we can predict pretty safely that part two is going to be a miraculous recovery because that's the way it goes for John. I can't fairly accuse him of hiding the bad stuff and only posting the good. But I suspect, if I'm right, then part two will be a sort of a whoa, a miraculous recovery. But anyway, just let's look at pattern betting's performance. What I did up here, by the way, I should admit right now, is that on the Cerasani tab down below, I've had 100,000 limits since I started this with John. In fact, he's never needed more than 10,000. That's the limit, and that's the actual maximum that appeared. He's never needed more than that. But pattern betting is basically a recognition that if you don't spread as wide as you possibly can, then you're never ever going to get through a session like this last one that King Cerasani suffered at the hands of the dealer at the Venetian. It wasn't the woman so much as the guy, who I'm sure was a very nice guy, but he was having a hot day. And, this is something that happens. Arithmetic doesn't recognize any of that. You talk to any mathematician, they'll say, no, that's irrelevant, doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. But anybody who's spent any time, as I have, thousands of hours in casinos in Nevada in the 27 years that I actually lived in Nevada, and the 10 years before that when I was in Southern California, in Pasadena, and used to go to Las Vegas probably at least once every 2 months. And sometimes I'd be there 2 or 3 times in the same month because I was covering the showbiz industry and sometimes the showbiz biz. And sometimes I'd be doing a load of interviews there. Always had a great time. Always loved Las Vegas. Unlike Cerasani, I can't claim that I always won wherever I went, but certainly over the years that I was going to Las Vegas on a regular basis, I did not get stung by much because I've been following a version of pattern betting, in other words, progressive betting, for as long as I've been playing serious blackjack, which is a very long time. Anyway, let's just scroll down through the Cerasani nasties. The first set of 21, you can see that line 1689 over on the left. The actual value was -2, so that was more losses than wins. But pattern betting managed to squeeze 2,375 out of it, so a plus 20.5 against a minus 7.5 actual value. The next one down below that, the next 21, it was -9 for John. -45% was the house edge just for that 21. Pattern betting didn't do very well. 150, just 0.1% of total action. Not very impressive, but the main thing is we got there. Next one down, -4, 20% against us, 4 more losses than wins. But pattern betting managed to make 20,025. Wouldn't that be nice? 24% of action. Next one down after that is 1%, so that there was a slight player edge in the next 21 bets. Pattern betting squeezed out 913 profit, 34.4% of its action. I'm not sure what John did. Next one is red all around, -1, -2.5%, and pattern betting screwed up, -12.7% of its action. Gets all that back in the next one, and then going on down, you can see, well, there we are. Here we are at the bottom, at the end, and we see a win for pattern betting of 9,263, or 4.9% of its total action. Total action was 200,000, and then here we see that the win is repeated here. And then the average winning bet was 969. The average losing bet, 576. And that's an average win over average loss of 168%. And that is the whole objective of pattern betting, the whole objective of progressive betting. Making sure you win more when you win than you lose when you lose. And people struggle with this for reasons that I really don't understand, because it just get pencil and paper and scribble down 7 losses in a row at $100 each, and then ask yourself, okay, now what am I going to do now? I just had a win, so now I'm 600 units down. Should I keep on betting 1 unit, or should I start pressing? And Cerasani makes rude comments about progressive betting quite often in his sessions, along with all the many other rude things he has to say. He says that people who believe in progressive betting are morons. This time is one of his comments. And as a certified moron, I've got to say that I'd rather have a moronic win of 9,263, or 4.9% of my total action, in comparison to what he did, which was, well, let's go down to the bottom here before we go anywhere else. What he did was a loss of 31,500. It shows 30,500 over here, minus 12.5% of his action. And then he lost 1,000 on his multi-bets. Those are just such a crap idea. I don't know why people even bother with them, but hey, they love it. And the casinos love it even more. His total damage from silly bets, multi-bets, 28, nearly 29,000. This time it was just 1,000. But all I'm saying is, hey, I would rather see a moronic win like mine than a clever loss like his. He sounds to me like a famous politician that we know who just trashes everybody as, you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm right about everything, and you're an idiot, and I'm not. Anyway, Mr. Greatest of all time, average bet was 1,217. He lost 26 of those in this session. Algy's average bet was slightly less, about 80% of that, 1,014. and Algy managed to win 9.1x his average bet, which I would say is a moronic success. The actual value, which is, when you just look at flat bets and you say, okay, there are X number of wins and X number of losses, and if the number of losses exceeds the number of wins, then you end up with a percentage which is here 12%. What JC Goat should have lost is 34,635, multiplying his total action by that. And actually, he lost 31,500. So he did a little bit better than was indicated. Algy should have lost 23,216, but he didn't do his job. Instead, he won 9,263. So that's how it went. I just don't know what to say about King Cerasani. I know he believes in himself, and it's very important in life to believe in yourself. But I think he might consider looking at the numbers and looking at some facts. And, he might end up being a better player. He might even end up being pretty good. I honestly don't think that he's any good at all currently. He makes a big mistake, where he bets as little as he does, and then every so often he just goes bonkers. Like, for instance, with this bet here, he surrendered at 5,000 and did his usual rule of saying, okay, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the savings, losing only half. I'm going to add the savings to the next bet to make it 7,500. And then, of course, he got a push, and then he panicked. He did a taco. That would be, I suppose, Kako. Kako. Yes, Cerasani always chickens out. Anyway, I haven't looked to see how the total number of surrenders is right now. So let's go over here. You know what? He's still doing very well with his surrenders. I think that I'm really intrigued by that idea. It's never occurred to me because I don't like the idea of surrendering. But that might be some kind of macho thing. That might be a big mistake. I'm always ready to listen to good mathematics from any source. And the way things are standing right now is that he's had 4 more successful surrender bets, which is the plus 50% bets, than he's had losers. So that's an advantage to him of 5.6% in terms of just wins over losses. But what counts here is the total payout. 18,300 he's made from that particular method, which is 15% of his total action, the post-surrender bumps in the bet. And I find that kind of intriguing, and I think that it may actually pan out over time, because it is a mathematical fact that the most common outcome immediately after either a win or a loss is the opposite result. So that you win, you lose, you win, you lose, you win, you lose. Chopping is just part of the whole picture. So for that reason, when he loses, which is what a surrender must be, then the most likely outcome after a loss is another loss. No, is a win. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to keep on tracking Cerasani. He's hard work because everything takes so long. He barely manages 60 bets an hour, which is terrible. Your average person can do at least twice that. And he must drive the dealers that he's playing with bonkers, because they're just not used to playing at that slow rate. What can I say? Anyway, answer after all of that and my waffling, because I'm just as bad as John Cerasani. He lost, I won, or Algy won, and that's the name of that tune, as my former friend Robert Blake used to say. He was a strange guy. I had several encounters with him, and nobody ever told me in advance that I was about to sit down and have a chat with a murderer, but then nobody knew that, did they? Robert, how long has he been dead now? Mickey was his real name. I don't know. Anyway, it's not relevant, is it? So, I knew in advance it was going to be a win for pattern betting. Not very happy about the fact that I have to keep playing King Cerasani's way because he hangs on too long through too much crap, and I wouldn't do that. I mean, look at this lot here. I mean, this stretch from here all the way down to here. It's horrible. And yes, he gets an occasional win in there, and of course, pattern betting does manage to turn around. But there's just some of these awful stretches here. Here's another one up here, 5 in a row. Because you keep seeing pattern betting turning around, and that's what the horizontal green bars are. Pattern betting turning around. It doesn't happen very much with John, I don't think. In his version, I don't think we see a single turnaround, do we? Yeah, that was a horrible session for him. That was really awful. Yeah, not a single turnaround. He just went straight into deep shit, and there he stayed. Anyway, enough. I'm gone, and thank you very much, King Cerasani, for the data set, and God, I hope you do better next time, because I'd like to end the Cerasani tracking saga on an up note, if you don't mind. Okay, so there's nothing very dramatic or surprising about this analysis here. All it does basically is it counts the number of times in the Cerasani sessions that there's an isolated win. So there's 456 of those, and then it tells us that 225 of those were followed by, that's a loss, and then 225 of those were followed by another loss, which means, of course, that a slightly higher percentage were followed by a win, so that 50.7% were followed by a win. And over here, you've got a very similar picture. 418 isolated wins, that is the start of a potential streak, and then 208 of those were followed by a second win, 49.8%, which means that 50.2% were followed by a loss. It's very straightforward, nothing surprising, nothing exciting, nothing, But, my big thing, of course, is to just look at the numbers all the time. Think about the numbers, know the numbers, respect the numbers, just keep them in mind at all times, so that, when the kind of pressure comes on that hit John Cerasani in this last thing, it's just think to yourself, okay, time to stop this nonsense. This is going the wrong way. It could easily immediately go the opposite way right after I leave, but I don't like this, so I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to gag. I'm going to get up and go. And that's all I'm ever saying. I'm not saying that by gagging, by running away from a shit situation, you're going to absolutely be guaranteed to move into a better situation. All that matters is the way that you feel. So if you feel pressured, if you feel threatened, if you feel uncomfortable because things are just going really badly, you can't get arrested, you can't catch a break, every time you get 20, the dealer gets 21. Every time whatever, you know the picture. Just stop. It's the don't bend over rule. It's the get up and go rule. It's whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, people like Cerasani they just bend over. And don't bend over is a very important rule. If you start to feel yourself on the wrong end of a shoe, or the dealer's having a hot streak, you're having a cold streak, whatever, stop. Simple as that. Anyway, I'm done for now. Bye-bye.